All right, hey guys, let's hop right in. Today I want to talk about all the things that I felt that New World got right and got wrong, and I'll be using the assistance of newworldfans.com. It's a fantastic page. Now they've done a great job there making it sort of the wiki for the game thus far. In the background, you just see some of my old gameplay just running there, so you can completely ignore that if you wish to. Basically, the first thing I really want to talk about that New World did unique compared to a lot of other MMORPGs is its stat system. Like this stat system is not something that you've seen anywhere else really, and it's really unique in the sense where, as it says, strength is primarily used for warhammer, great axe, sword, and hatchet, and it's a secondary attribute for spear. Now what this does is it only affects the damage output of said weapon. And as for the secondary attribute, what it does is it increases the damage, but by a lesser percent. So certain weapons, like for example the sword, it has two attributes. Primary is strength, the secondary is dexterity. And for cases like this, what happens is strength affects the damage of the sword. I mean, the sword's damage increase mostly, but dexterity increases it a little bit. However, certain weapons like the Warhammer and Great Axe only use the strength attribute. Thus, it is a one-to-one increase in terms of damage. Now, this is the only thing strength does. Other than that, at certain nodes which you can acquire at 50 points, 100 points, and 150 points, and so on and so forth, until the maximum of 300 points, these nodes grant you a few extra bonuses to the increase in stats. However, the stat itself, like for example, intelligence, is not known to increase your mana pool or your mana regen. It does none of that. Okay, you may get a note that says 10% mana after dodge, but as for the intelligence, even if you have, let's say, 200 and 300 intelligence, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have 300 mana points. So that's also something to take note of. This is totally new, very unique. It's not really been done in any other games that I've seen, but this sort of reminds me in a way of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, because in Jedi Fallen Order what happens is your character doesn't really get stronger as they level up and as they get attribute points that they can distribute to unlock certain skills. Actually, skill points. They get skill points and they unlock certain skills, and they don't necessarily scale to get stronger in any way. However, you as a player do get better with the character as you play, and as a result, the character ends up being stronger or feeling stronger as time goes on, because you unlock more skills, more passives that affect you, and of course you're better at the game. However, your stat is not the reason you're better, and this is an amazing thing. Why? Because the game becomes actually about gameplay and not just about leveling and gearing. It's not all about, oh, if I have max level and max gear, I'm going to be able to beat every other player in the game. It doesn't necessarily work like that. A lot of other games, it's where you have to have players that are almost at max level or close to that to even want to be able to compete in high-end PvP or PvE content. However, in games like this one, I mean, it's unique, New World. It doesn't really rely on that because your stats don't really affect you that much, and it's more so you just having extra passives that really affects your character compared to the newer players. And I find this amazing. One, because it's more free to play friendly. Of course, you have to pay to get the game, but at least it's better than spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in games that force you to pay just to be better than the other players. Whereas in this game, everyone is paid for the same thing. You get better by actually playing and practicing and experimenting with builds and stats and all of these sorts of things. Now, that's the first thing that New World did really, really well. I'm really happy with that, and I hope that they don't ever change this concept. The second thing, as far as the armors and what do you call these items are concerned, I think I find it very simple, very unique, very into the theme. They didn't do anything that is too world breaking. Everything here seems very set on what is essentially new world, and their concept. They have bullets, they have arrows, they have all these armors, and they have a unique armor system: light, medium, and heavy armor. All that is fine. It requires a bit of balancing here and there, but it's not too affecting things in any way. But that's another thing that we should also just say, that it's okay, it's done reasonably well, but I feel there are games that have actually done this a little better. And what I mean because of that is because in certain places like the crafting system, while it is very nice and very comfortable and neat to craft, in order to craft certain items, you need tier 2 and tier 3 items as part of the crafting recipe. And you can get these tier 2 and tier 3 items by collecting them in the wild or also crafting them. So we need to have options that actually show us that these are things that you can craft if you want to get this, because we already have the materials for it. So we don't have that expanded option of like a quick sort of reference to know that we can craft it, and we don't have to like start scrolling through and digging up where I can get these tier 2 or tier 3 items. For example, after I found out that sausage was a tier 2 item, I could just craft all my tier 1 meat into sausages using that meat and honey. And honey is super easily acquirable, and you can get it in large amounts. And that was easily a tier 2 meat for me to use in my tier 2 crafting. And that's something that I had to figure out by myself. And I mean, I'm sure a lot of other people have done it as well, but it's just something I wish that the game just told you right off the bat that if you can, this is a tier 2 item that you can craft, and this is an item that you can use. However, instead you have to find it and craft it before it even shows up as an option for crafting. Those of you who have played will probably know what I mean, but this is just something I wanted to point out. The third thing in the game that I felt was pretty cool was the consumables part. Now, as for the food itself, of course, cooking in this game is a really important thing. You really need to learn cooking so you can craft better consumables, and you do really want to craft them, as time goes on, instead of just purchasing them, because it's just much cheaper. Plus, you'll be getting XP from gathering resources, which is an amazing thing in this game. You actually can gather XP by gathering resources, and it really does help you level up. You can literally level up by doing gathering in this game, and nothing else really. It's quite impressive, but it's not game breaking because it is really grindy if you just want to gather. But at least it's something that is constantly happening, because you're grinding for quests, you're grinding because you need certain materials for other things. And as a bonus, you're getting XP, which is an amazing thing, and it's a good amount of XP as well. So the consumables in this game are they still require a little bit of balancing, because they really break the kind of concepts of PvP, because PvP in this game is essentially whether the person can reach you. And for melee builds, it's really really tricky to reach a person who's using a range build, who's using the roll dodge with light armor. They can get really really far really fast, and if they have other mobility perks, it's going to be really difficult to pin them down. But on top of that, you have the problem where once they have a consumable like a healing potion or a mana potion, they're just going to be able to infinitely heal themselves, and whoever has the most number of potions will win that PvP fight. And this applies mostly to open world PvP. It doesn't really apply to the faction war and stuff, because you can get one shotted by 4 or 5 people just shooting you down, or a cannon hitting your face. So in that case, it doesn't really help you. And in PvE content, doesn't really matter, because in PvE content, you just want the player to always have the upper hand, because you want to feel powerful in the world and balance at the same time. But in 1v1 PvP, the enemy is not going to just come and rush you like a mob. They're obviously going to play strategically. They're going to try to avoid you. They're going to dodge you. They're going to run, and it's really difficult to catch up with them when they just have a whole bunch of consumables. And the cooldown on consumables is rather generous. I think it's useful for PvE situations, but in PvP situations, it just feels like sort of an abuse, and melee characters really struggle unless they go for very specific and niche builds just to counter these people. Like you gotta go for a great axe, crowd control ability specifically, and you gotta land them, or you gotta switch to a musket just to fight them in the range combat and switch back to melee once you get up close. So it really sort of limits a player who wants to go for a very specific weapon build. Like if you want to go for Warhammer Great Axe, for example, your Warhammer is almost never going to hit the enemy in PvP if they know how to play. Like, if you're both players of the same level, I think it's going to be super difficult to hit an enemy just because they have weapons that are better at range, and they're going to maintain their range because they know exactly that that's their advantage, and you're going to be running a marathon chasing after them, and they're just going to be constantly healing. So, this is something that needs to be sort of thought looked into, but it's still done. Reasonably well, to the extent that you have the option of learning how to craft your own potions. Is going to be something that's going to keep happening. So these are just some of the pros and cons I feel with this system, but hey, it's okay. The next one is the weapons. I feel the weapon system is okay, but it really has a lot more to explore into because of the way certain weapon crafting work. Like, you're still getting stats on weapons that you don't really you may not ever use. Like, for example, I do see a lot of hatchets coming up with what do you call this, intelligence in their stats, and I feel that that's not something that we want. Like no one's ever going to want an intelligence hatchet unless you're going for some super unique hatchet, rapier build where they want to go just full dex, so the intelligence is going to help their rapier. It's not something that people are going to do. They rather just have the right stats for the right weapon, so that really has to be reworked. On the other hand, the ability or the variety of weapons and the options that they do provide are pretty unique. The only problem is because certain weapons rely on specific skills for specific builds, and you may not get that exact what do you call this, buff you want on that weapon, and you may have to re-roll and rebuild it until you get it. Now this may seem a little bit tedious at first, but I'm sure towards the end game you can just keep farming out and keep doing this. But for players early in the game, if they get a wrong roll on the weapon, it's ruined. There's nothing really they can do because it's not the the type of playstyle they want to go for. So they're just gonna probably try to sell it off or salvage it. So it's a bit unfortunate. But as for end game players, it's super easy. They just have to reroll that stat using all the gems and the crafting and the other options they have. So I hope there's an easier way for new players to be able to select what kind of skill stats or weapon stats. Like maybe instead of having a specific stat already built into a weapon, maybe they can give them something to craft it into, so they can decide if they want to craft it or not. And I feel that having that option will give a lot more power to the newer players and endgame players. Well, it won't really affect them because they'll be able to just remove it and rebuild, like fix in new slots and new gems and whatever, because they can just redo the crafting. But for players that are early on, if they make the mistake, they got to live with it at least, but at least they'll have the option of deciding if they want to do it at all at first. And what I mean by this is, for example, if you have a gravity well, add-on for or a perk for your great axe, if you're a player who uses it, it's obviously something you want to keep, especially if you're going for a lot of big PvP fights or rather dungeon missions and stuff like that. But if you're a person who doesn't want to go down that path, you feel that it's not something that you want to do. I mean, obviously you want to go for it. Right now it's so broken, but still, let's say you choose not to do it, you should at least have that option to not have it already built into your axe, and maybe it is something you can also pick up. The next one is resources. Now, the gathering system, as I said, is amazing in this game. It allows you to level up. There's a lot of things that you can truly find in the world, and it's nice to see the player market actually having quite a bit of options of selling and buying. And I'm sure once the game actually goes live and a lot of other players pick it up, the market is going to be just like it's going to be packed. There's going to be so many things, of people farming and trying to sell and trying to make a living out of it, and especially buy their houses, build their pets and all of these things. The resources themselves are pretty amazing. It's just that I don't want it to get oversaturated with too many resources to the point where certain things become redundant just because other things have more value. Like for example, I've collected 1,000 feathers in this game, and I have not used anywhere near like 200 or 300 of them. So resources like that are just like they're just overpiling, and I put them on the shop to sell, but they're not being sold either because no one's really using them. So there are certain resources I feel that just have better purpose than others, and you'll be able to craft a lot of hide in this game by collecting a lot of skin, but it takes you a large gap in crafting before you go from level 1 to level 50, and in between there's not many things you can craft along the way using that specific material. So I wish there was certain uses for materials like feathers a lot more, hide a lot more, that you can use to craft things in between, just so that you can use it along the way as you level up the crafting ability, and not only use it once you have reached level 50 in crafting and then you finally decide you want to craft something with it so you can use it. It's just that scaling of being able to constantly utilize something, I feel is more important. So that's another thing to point out. The next thing, the weapon sets in the game. Now, I'm very sure that this thing is not complete, and what I mean by that is because we have all these stats, right? We have 5 stats here, and if you look at the distribution of weapons, strength has 4 weapons using strength as the primary stat. Dexterity has 4 weapons. Intelligence only has 2. Focus only has 1, and Constitution has none. So by the looks of it, there are still things that can be fit into Intelligence, 2 more, and Focus, especially, I think 3 more. And now this is going to be really cool because it means that we are definitely going to get at least 5 more weapons, but I'm not sure how many more than that. But we're definitely going to get at least 5 more weapons by the looks of it, because of the design the game is going for. I'm pretty sure that focus intelligence will also be equally used to strength and dexterity. It's probably because that the options in the game haven't fully been tested out yet, so it's not even in the beta. So probably once it has been fully tested out, it may be released in stages, and we'll be getting more weapons as time goes on. And that's going to be super interesting. I want to see more intelligence focused weapons, maybe something like a loot for the bard character, maybe a strength focused weapon like what do you call this, the we have a javelin, right? We have a spear, maybe a great sword, maybe a blade like a katana blade or something, maybe a samurai sword. It could be a lot of other options as well. It could even be a chain mace. I think a chain mace for the strength focus also seems like a pretty cool thing. And then maybe for a dex focus, they can go for something like a double blade, or maybe shuriken. All of these other options that may not seem too game breaking, but at the same time, are pretty awesome things to have out there in the world as well. Because shurikens are also pretty medieval. Chain mace definitely, great sword definitely, and we have things like fire stuff and ice gauntlet and life stuff. These things are just magic straight up. So I'm pretty sure they can add more magical elements as well as options to fit into this existing weapon system. It'll be super awesome. And the best part about this is, like, imagine another MMO which you pick up and you have dedicated yourself to play a specific character. Like, for example, I played a lot of support classes in a lot of games. And sometimes I feel like I want to switch out to a specific what do you call this, tank class or DPS class, and I can't do that. So what I have to do is instead create a new character and go through the entire grind of bringing up that character all over again. And I may not get the same roles that I spend so much time on, so much dedication on the base character that I created. Certain pathways and certain tricky points, especially in Guild Wars, there's a lot of platforming, and it gets tiring if you do it too many times. But then you really feel satisfied once you've done it. But if you have to do it all over again, it feels really painful. And also in things like Neverwinter, I built a Guardian fighter. I was super strong in that, but having to switch all the way from a whole new level class just to be able to grind up all the way. And then I play Terra, and it's the same thing on Terra. You have to change your race, your class, all to fit into that build. I've also played a bit of WoW back in the day. I played a bit of RuneScape. I've played like at least, I think, about 2 dozen, different MMOs, Ragnarok. There's so many things that never even saw the light of day, and there's things like Rift. It's insane, okay? But the best thing about this game that does it so uniquely is the fact that if tomorrow Straight Sword is meta, right? If tomorrow Straight Sword is meta, all players have access to it. You don't have to build a character from start. All you have to do is level up your Straight Sword so that you can meet the level requirements to be able to unlock that particular skill tree or whatever that makes it meta, and you are good to go. And similarly, you can do that for all your weapons even before the updates come out or the balance changes come out. And hey, if it goes your way, you have that weapon leveled up, great. If you don't, you just have to work a little harder to level it up. So no one is left behind by the fact that they have to start the game all over just to be part of the meta, and that's not going to be a problem. And I feel that this is the best part of this system. And if other MMOs have this open class system, it'll be super, super amazing. I believe RuneScape used to do this, and it was super fun in that. But RuneScape didn't really do much balancing. They didn't really spend any time on that, to be frank. But in this game, it seems like balancing may be really important to them, because we did see major changes come out before the what do you call this, the open beta was unlocked. And after the beta right now, we'll be going to the live release, and we're going to see a lot more changes in time to come. And I'm sure there'll be more and more balances in live, especially because players will be complaining a lot more, because there'll be a lot more people who actually bought the game, a lot more new players, and especially players who are dedicating their actual time and resource to really knowing that this time it's for real. There's no bullshit in this game. Like in the beta, you did all the crap. You tested all the funny things. You unlocked all the bugs. You found a way to level up. You abused all kinds of systems. But all those people are not going to be able to do this in the live game, because people are watching. The devs are watching. You may get penalized for it. And so That's where you really want people to have the game balanced so that they don't abuse these things, so that everyone can have fun. And having this system allows the devs to release a new weapon, and all players getting access to it means that everyone gets to try it, everyone gets to have fun, everyone gets to be part of the meta or not. It's totally up to them. Or maybe they want to do a counter meta strat, and all these, in PvP and whatever. It's going to be super fun. It's going to be super amazing. So the next thing is the creatures. Now I'm a pretty relatively new in this game, so I didn't really get too far into the end game. And so let me just tell you from what I have seen is that there are a lot of unique creatures in the game, but you have to go to specific zones to see them. So for me, for the most part, I saw a lot of these skeletons and zombies and stuff and the undead, and I thought that, okay, there's a lot of these things, but this is all I'm seeing. But then I realized when I went to a new zone, or rather a new map, there's a totally different range of enemies, totally different classes as well, new abilities as well. They do a lot of crazy, crazy stuff, and there are certain variations to specific enemies, like you see the lynx compared to the wolf. They act in the same way. They're sort of the wild predator of the jungle, but they do different things slightly. They don't attack you in the same way. They don't move in the same way. They don't dodge in the same way. So I found those little variations fair enough to say that it is still better than a lot of other MMORPGs where all the mobs do the same thing. Here, the mobs don't really do the same thing. Also, I have noticed mobs able to dodge, able to block, and decide when they want to attack. So they do have some intelligent AI in this game. It's just that there is still a lot of room for improvement. Let me tell you that. There are instances where some AI just completely bug out and do absolutely nothing, and I am fully aware of that. There are instances where the AIs are all stacked onto each other and they start bugging out, and some of them, another AI spawns into an existing AI spot, and that also causes some issues. But all of these things can be fixed, can be addressed, because I have seen a glimpse of intelligence from some of the AI, which gives me hope that it's just a matter of time before all of the AIs, what do you call this, intelligence is improved, and they're all able to think in their own unique way. Because you don't want the game to be too difficult. You don't want people to be missing all their shots. Otherwise, players will just get too frustrated and find the game too difficult to play, and they'll struggle leveling up, which will be an important thing for them because they want to be able to get more perks and more attributes to experience the game better. However, it is also good to have intelligence to a certain extent, especially for the kind of elite mobs and stuff. I think we need more elite mobs in the open world just so that people can go and experience them and know that threat is there, and they can be joined by allies, even from other factions, to be able to just get this thing down, to get some loot out of it. And I think that is what gives you the most satisfaction, because you're actually able to, practice against this particular creature's attack patterns. You see it changing animation, you see it coming up with crazy stuff, and the regular mobs can do their own thing because, quite frankly, they're just mobs. They're meant to do their own thing while you're facing the ultimate enemy. But at the same time, having all the mobs having intelligence is also okay. It's just going to be really tricky. There are also things in this game that I have experimented only a little bit with, which are certain perk gems, which can be slotted into certain weapons, which have slots. And these things add a lot of new sort of options into the game. Like, for example, there's this one particular thing, um, this one, empowered gem. So this thing, that it says damage scales of base weapon stat or intelligence. So especially like for weapons like the what do you call this, rapier. The rapier scales primarily on the dexterity, and its secondary stat is intelligence. But let's say you want to go for a ice gauntlet rapier or fire staff rapier build. Now this wouldn't be ideal because you'll have to start to spend points in two different stats, because the primary stat for rapier is dexterity. However, imagine going all out in intelligence, right? You just max intelligence. You don't take any dex, so you're losing damage on rapier. Rapier still gets a lot of damage from intelligence, but you're still losing because it's not its main stat. However, because you have the empowered gem, this changes because now your damage scales of intelligence, so it will offset the lack of dexterity and allow you to go fully into one stat just to be able to play what do you call this, the rapier together with your ice gauntlet or fire staff, and the damage changes to arcane. The only thing I wish is if intelligence that says that it improves the magic damage, elemental damage, right? If it improves elemental damage, perhaps using something like electrified will actually be better, because electrified is elemental. It increases based on intelligence. So certain gems like that, I like these options. But there's still a lot of things that could be changed, I feel, and I feel that just a matter of time before we see which really suits into our play. And once the devs see that, oh, everyone's going for this particular gem, so we probably have to have the other gems buffed. And I think that it's important to buff everything else first so that we see what players change to, instead of nerfing, because when you nerf you frustrate the players who have already invested so much. But when you buff the other things, then players will start to at least not regret the changes that they've made, just that they have to invest in other things as well. But if you nerf something, then they're going to have to be so pissed with the loss of investment of what they've already done. So that's kind of something that they should probably look into. In the lore, now let me tell you, I read a lot of notes. I collected a lot of notes and I read them later as well. Now, the notes do have some interesting lore. They're not that amazing, but it's interesting enough to keep you want to look for notes because you also get XP, and I mean, who doesn't want XP? But here's the thing: you're getting swarmed by mobs a lot of the time when you're reading notes. This is because the spawn rate for the monsters are quite high. And I'm not sure if this is going to be carried to the live build, but they spawn really, really fast. And as a result, it takes you out of the immersion of wanting to stay there to read a note because you don't have the time to read it. The monsters are going to spawn, and if you're in an area that's matching your level, you don't want to hang around there too long, or you're going to get swarmed. You're going to get stagger locked or something. There's no staggering exactly, but you do get staggered by the enemy beating you. And if you get locked in a corner, especially with a large mob, you're going to get crushed. So there has to be a way for us to be able to read these notes in peace when we actually find them, instead of needing to run away before we look into it. So there has to be a way for them to reduce the AI spawn rate, um, at least in specific areas, maybe. So that players can actually spend more time exploring the area instead of always constantly needing to keep their weapon out and constantly fighting respawning mobs. So that's something I wish they changed, but nonetheless, it's there is lore, and I didn't want to get too much into it because I don't want to burn out before the actual game is fully released. I wanted to save a lot of this for the live gameplay so that I can experience it fresh. I just wanted to get into this so that I can play around more with specific mechanics to understand it, and also to see what weapon suits me and those kinds of things. But it seems like there's going to be just so much more to do that it's going to be pretty insane. So camping is a thing that I'm not sure why it was done at first. I think it's because of the spawn point system. So this is actually something we do need to address. The spawn points are not something that are working out very well right now because a lot of players rather just kill themselves by clicking the respawn and then take the damage to their gear just to get to the closest spawn point. And this is something that needs to seriously be fixed. And I think, I mean, there are a lot of what do you call this, people giving their comments online, and I've checked out a lot of them. I feel that the what do you call this, mounts shouldn't be introduced in this game because it's going to be a little bit game breaking. But I do think that players should be allowed to fast travel from anywhere on the map. I think that that's important. They should be able to initiate fast travel from anywhere, and they can unlock certain fast travel points to travel to. But to travel from, they should be able to do it from anywhere. And I think that simple fix will do enough for the game. If you feel that you're low on Azoth or something like that, maybe they can reduce the Azoth travel cost to nearer locations, because they do that. If you travel, they've already done that. Like if you travel further, your Azoth cost is going to be slightly more. But if you travel to a nearer location, your asset cost is slightly less. I feel that they just should allow players to fast travel from anywhere, so long as they don't get attacked during the travel. Like if they initiate fast travel and a mob hits them, it gets cancelled, so they have to be in like find a safe corner to do it. But they should be able to do it from anywhere because it's going to save them time. It's not going to make your game any less difficult or anything like that. It's just that it's going to make it more convenient for the players instead of abusing the respawn death option. I mean, that's not really the best way for people to fast travel, is it? So a lot of games do fast travel from anywhere on the map. It's just that they can only go to specific points, and I think that that same method should be used here. I don't think there should be any variation because what works shouldn't really be changed too much, and I think that that works pretty well. So yeah, that's just something I wanted to point out. Now, as for the what do you call this? Let me go to the next one. Cooking. Yeah, we've covered this. Engineering. I haven't really gone to this engineering thing too much. jewel crafting, yeah, experimented a little bit. Weaponsmithing. Okay, so yeah, I think I've covered most of the things. I do have a little bit of bonus for you guys. Let me pull it up. Give me a sec. I have to open this one first. Okay, all right. So let me pull something up for you guys. There you go. All right, cool. All right, so here you go. So this is an Excel workbook. Let me just edit my crop a little bit. There you go. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. So I experimented with fishing. It's a little bit of bonus content with you guys. And I experimented with fishing. I fished at least 100 times. I fished way more than that, but these are the number of times that I actually noted. So I'm just going to give you guys a general tip based on all the stats are collected. The stats are here. You guys can take a screenshot or look it up or whatever if you want to. But I experimented in reed gill. I also experimented in the fishery for the freshwater fishing by the secret fish point and all these kinds of things. But let me just tell you what my general experience in Monarchs West was, because I think this was the biggest test that I did. So this is all deep sea fishing. All right, I tried very shallow, shallow, and deep. And from what I can tell, the biggest difference I noticed is that very shallow has a higher chance of getting seaweed. Okay, you have a high chance of getting seaweed. I got way more than this, but this is just something that I recorded when I finally tested. So you get a very high chance of getting seaweed in very shallow waters. However, your waiting time is increased. If you go to deep waters, your waiting time is less. That's the biggest difference I noticed. Also, in terms of quality of fish, there's not that much of a difference. However, deep water did generally get me a lot more fish. And so what I did is I continued a lot of my testing in deep water. And let me tell you, if you go to a specific deep water location like Reed Gill is west of Monarchs, um, and if you fish at 15, you can. I think the maximum I threw my reel for was 15.5, and if you can throw a 15.5 in deep water, I just go for max. I don't bother in between. It doesn't really affect the quality of your fish, but it does increase your chance based on the distance that you throw. So if you throw 10 meters, for example, you're not going to get certain things that have higher quality. If you throw 15, you do get higher quality, and this is something that I really tested through. And so I decided, let's just go for all 15 and see what difference it makes. Initially, I made another chart where I did 5, 10s, and 15s. I removed the 10s because I didn't really see a difference between the 10s and the 5s, but I did see a significant difference between the distance of 5 and 15. How to get a flat 5? It's simple. Just let the meter bounce all the way up and down. You'll get a flat 5. But if you stop the meter at the max point, you get 15. And when you throw it, if you really throw it in deep sea, you can get up to 15.5 meters. And let me tell you, I found something that I didn't expect to see, which is a treasure chest. And what did the treasure chest give me? I actually have a screenshot of it, I think. Let me pull it up for you guys. I think I have a screenshot. Let me just open up this. Yeah. Oh crap. Okay, it's in my Steam library. Give me a sec. Okay, all right. Let me show you what it is. So here it is. So this is what I got from a treasure chest, and I got two different variety of drops both times, but they don't really differ much from the options that they give you. From what I got is you get a whole bunch of coin. I think I got about 38 coin from the first one and about 50 coin from the next one. I did get gold ingots. I got opal. I got platinum, flawed amber, ruby, emerald, and I did get a few slight differences. I think I got amethyst or something like that in the other one. But there are slight differences, and this is what you can get from a treasure chest. And how to get a treasure chest is, I don't know, it's super rare. You gotta keep doing 15 deep fishing, and I think eventually you'll be able to get one. And I do believe it's a once a day thing. And why I say that is because I only got it once a day. Now, it could also be just chance, meaning you gotta keep fishing just non-stop until you eventually get it, and maybe you can get more than one in a day. But from my experience so far, I only got once a day, and I did this test for I think about 3 entire game days. But the first one was about in half the day, so it's probable that I just didn't trigger it within the time that I had. So in the second and third days, I got one respectively, and Yeah, so super cool. I like this thing. I like this little what do you call these Easter eggs and like little secrets that they have in the game that you got to find out just by doing something and specializing in your craft. And because I spent so much time fishing, I found these treasure chests, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other players who tried fishing would have come across this as well. Also, there's quite a bit of variety of fish. I like it, and I believe that they can have more variety in the future, especially for higher level areas. I think that they should have a what do you call this, some kind of bonus to actually fishing in higher level areas, maybe in difficulty where monsters are going to respawn. If you actually manage to fish a fish there, I think it should be a high quality fish just in general. Now another thing that I do want to inform you, besides doing a deep 15 fishing, is that um, baits will definitely boost you a lot. Baits will give you a very very high chance of getting large fish, and the bluefish, rare fish, which is such as the stingrays, tadpoles, clams. You know, these sorts of things. They are really high quality. They are like tier 3 and tier 4. And so you want to use baits as much as you can, and baits are not very difficult to obtain. They're pretty easy. So I like the entire fishing mechanism. I played around a lot with it. I couldn't really get into a lot of other lifestyle things. I was thinking of what else. I couldn't. I knew I didn't have much time in lifestyle because it's going to be something that I really have to dedicate your time specifically to advance in it. And since I wasn't in a large party or anything, I decided, okay, I think the easiest lifestyle thing for me to do besides gathering would probably be fishing. And so this is my results from fishing. So I thought I'd share it with you guys. So when the life drops, I think I suggest you guys just go for deep 15. If you are in the ocean, and if you're in a lake, just go for at least shallow or very shallow. I think these are the only two options, but just throw your 15s. You don't really want to throw any shorter. As for the meter, the struggle meter does not determine the quality of your fish or anything like that. I tested it. It just is something that you got to do to just get the fish. And also for the alert meter, which tells you to click to reel in, also doesn't affect the quality or anything in any way. However, the distance you do throw, which is the 15, and also the depth, definitely affects the quality of the fish. And also certain fishing spots do increase the chance for a specific fish. And for those of you still struggling to get things like clam or anything like that, let me tell you, it's very simple. Go for 15s in very shallow, you have a high chance of clam. And if you go for 15s in deep, you can also still get clam. The only difference is that you're probably going to get large clams, which is something that's super rare because I haven't seen many of this. I think I only ever got this once in all my clam fishing. I think I've caught a total of like 10 clam, and I only got one large clam, and it was in deep. But the only problem with deep fishing is that you're going to increase the chances of getting a lot of other fish, thus it may be difficult. So you can just go for 15 in very shallow, and you may get a lot of small fishes, but you have a higher chance of getting clam. Because in very shallow, I think I got like 3 or 4 clams. I didn't note it here because I did all that before noting it, and then I decided, okay, you know what, let's start taking some notes. So but of course you can go for deep 15 and just increase the chance of getting overall high quality fish. And you know, if you're lucky, you get a clam. But hey, using a bait is probably the best way. Baits will always increase your chance of getting clams, stingrays, and stuff like that. And I feel that this fishing system is great in the game. It's just that I want to see more cool things like treasure chests, because you know they have the what do you call this? Like the downside, right? Sort of the punishment, sort of the lack of compensation when you feel when you get something like a boot or an ore. You know, these are things that you're not looking for. So I like it when you finally do well, you get something like a treasure chest, and it gives you so many amazing benefits. As I showed, these things are amazing. So I feel that something like this is really cool. Maybe they could do different quality of treasure chests. And I think that may have been the case, because when I fished this out, this was a uncommon quality treasure chest, and both times I got the same. It is possible that there is rare and higher qualities, maybe in higher difficulty areas that I have not explored. But if that is really the case, then that's super cool. So yeah, a little bit of in depth in fishing as a bonus, but I think I've covered most of what I wanted to show to you guys. So I mean that's generally what I wanted to share. But yeah, I'm having so much fun so far in Newell. I think it is a game with a great concept and great possibility, and it is totally, I think, deserving of the title of New World, because it is really giving us a whole new class system which we didn't have in quite a while, and it has more variety to it than a lot of other games did. The closest thing this is to is probably RuneScape, but on top of RuneScape, they may actually be shifting the meta around because it's very PvP oriented. So it is possible that we'll be getting a lot more weapons, and everyone's going to get access to it. It's going to be super fun for the devs to see all of us, experimenting with their builds and showing them how game breaking certain things are, certain things they may have overlooked, and they got to nerf things, they got to buff things. It's going to be amazing when things come out. So yeah, I've had so much fun. The game is honestly buggy. There's a lot of things that are not completed, but hey, which game on launch is not buggy, right? There's no MMORPG on launch that was smooth, that had no issues, that had a great system, everything was balanced. That's nonsense. There's no such thing. And from what I've seen in this game, I think things are a lot closer to being balanced out because of the changes that they did from the closed beta, or rather the closed beta to the open beta. The closed beta, which was only for like selected people who emailed in and whatever, they got the closed beta keys. They did the testing, and from what they did to the beta changes that we got when we did the open beta, which anyone can do by pre-ordering, there were major changes. You initially had 3 weapons and you couldn't swap unless your cooldowns are over. Now you have only 2 weapons that you can swap whenever you want, even while skills are on cooldown. And also they made changes where the passives don't stick to specific weapons. I wish the passives would stick. I wish that comes back. They could nerf the passives a little bit, because everyone knows we're all going to go for that berserk passive because it's so insane. Imagine hatchet berserk passive and using a bow. It's insane. But there's things like that that we want. We want these wombo combos. We want this meta builds. We want this, what do you call this? Creativity and experimentation between the merging of different weapons so that it gives you more possibilities and more variety. But I understand that's going to be more difficult to balance if they do that. So they probably took that system out altogether, and then maybe we'll introduce it later when things are more balanced. And I really hope that's the case. I have big hopes for them. I'm sure everyone does, because it's Amazon. I mean, who isn't? But just not thinking of it as like, oh, it's developed by Amazon. Let's keep that aside. Let's just look at what they have done and what they have achieved. I think for the value that they've put out this game and what they've done in the game so far, it looks amazing because we do know for a fact that it's going to be free to play from the point you have purchased the game, because of the fact that you don't have to worry about changing your classes. You just got to work on different weapons, and then there's no way you can pay to advance or progress in any sort of way in this game. There were initially a word of paying for quality of life changes such as travels and all that, but I think all that will be taken out as soon as they figured out a way to balance things. I think the simplest thing is let people just fast travel from wherever they are as long as they don't get attacked by a mob, and they can travel to the fast travel points which they've discovered on the map. I think that that's a fantastic feature that's good enough. And if they run out of Azot, then too bad, they gotta get beaten up and die. And I think the option for them to just die whenever and wherever, if they want to, should penalize them a little more, in other sense, because they are abusing this system now because the fast travel is not done. So there may be ways of working that out. I really hope that all that gets seen through. So yeah, that's it from me. This is my overall kind of review of my experience in the game. As you know, I didn't spend too much time reaching the end game because that wasn't really my goal. I didn't really want to see all of that yet. My idea was just to play around with different things, explore the world, try to get a feel of it, just try out different things such as a little bit of PvP, a little bit of war, a lot of gathering, a lot of life quality, like quality of life things in this game, just to see how it feels like. And let me tell you, the game itself is beautiful. It needs to be optimized, sure. Lag issues, quite honestly, I didn't face lag issues. I saw people lagging around me, but I did not. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I'm in Asia and I'm using Asian server. But there's a lot of European players who come to the Asian server because Europe servers are quite crowded and they gotta wait in queues. And this is also nice for me because it's nice to have support from our European friends. But they are clearly lagging in the game. You can see them doing really, really funny stuff during PvP. As for the Australian friends, I think it's cool because they have to use Asian server because it's probably got the best ping rate for them. So I think they are doing okay. But it's the European and American players who join Asian server with like 300-400 ping and then really struggle in it. I think they are the ones who mostly have lag issues. As for the European and US servers by themselves, I believe they are facing lag just because there's just too many players trying out the game there, compared to Asia. In Asia, there's just definitely not that many players. The servers are quite light. I never experienced lag in the game, honestly. I only experienced like in certain places when the game is rendering the world around me. But I think that has to do with just my graphics card trying to keep up with the world itself, because I'm running a 1070. It's quite old, but it managed to render this game in high quality. But I did drop the quality later on because I realized that it just not take my GPU all the way to 90+%, which is a little bit scary. So I don't want to stay in that rate. So after turning all down to low, I realized the world doesn't really look any worse. So they didn't really optimize the graphic differences. I think they should reduce certain blooms and certain smokes and certain light effects, just to make the it make the burden lesser on GPUs. I don't mind playing on the lowest quality, honestly, as long as I get a smooth gameplay. I think that's far more important. And this game is the game that's closest to open world, in terms of the feeling of it, because there's no real instance. You don't have to worry about the game loading up to a specific instance or something like that once you go to a certain area. Instead, you can just keep walking map to map, and it's really impressive in that way. So I think if they need to have an instance just so that we can go to the next map, so that they can fix a little bit of the lag, it doesn't render difficult, take too much time rendering. Instead, it just just to ease the GPU, because they finally got to find the balance. I know they want to make the ultimate game and whatever, but GPUs are going to struggle, and you're going to cut off a lot of players from your player base just because they can't keep up with it. And I pulled through, so I'm lucky, but I also feel it for my other friends who just aren't able to have the right hardware at the moment, and it's a little bit unfortunate because I also want them in the game with me. So this is things I wanted to share as well, just to add on. So I hope you guys had a great time. I hope you guys tried out the game. If you haven't, there's so many people trying out the game, so many gameplay videos. Go and check them out. And you can probably wait for the full release, see what changes are made. I'm sure they'll all be meta breaking. They'll all be super fun. And if you ever decide to pick the game up, I mean, go ahead. It's great. See you guys. And also, by the way, as I said, I mean, just a little bit of a warning. If you want to wait for the game to be fully optimized, to be not so buggy, to everything for everything be stable, let me tell you, it may not be ready at launch. I think that is pretty clear. We got to be realistic. From what they've done a lot of changes, but there's a lot of mechanics that they got to tweak. So for them to find out every single buggy location, the animations and all of these little buggy things, it's going to take them a long time to fix, and it's probably not going to be done at launch. But I think that it's not going to break the game in any way, so long as you can still play it. Like, yeah, I mean, even if, as long as you're not lagging, if you're stuck in a certain place, if as long as you're not lagging, you're still okay. But I think if the game is lagging and it crashes, these kinds of things are major. And as long as I don't see that, I think getting stuck in a rock is not the worst thing in the world. You can find a way out of being stuck in a rock, but your entire game just crashing is the most frustrating thing for some players, and I think that's not going to happen. But yeah, just a little heads up for you guys. I'm nothing to hide here. I'm always honest in my reviews. I always give you guys exactly what I felt, and I'm sure there's a lot of players who may find this game not as good as the games that they have played because of the experience that they have had. But from all the MMORPGs that I've played, I think this one stands to be possibly, one of the better ones. It will be as soon as everything is a lot more ready. But as it is, the system and the mechanics it has is already impressive, because a lot of games don't do this, and this allows better free-to-play experience. And I mean, quite frankly, I rather buy a game like this and have a great free-to-play experience than to play a free-to-play game and then get paywalled, because that's where it incentivizes the developers to make the game frustrating just so you pay. Whereas in this case, it doesn't force them to do that, because they're not going to get any more money from you. So they just got to fix things in the game just to keep players coming in, and they can't charge you for certain experiences. And I think that is the right way to do it. And it looks really well done. I hope there's no, DLCs or any crap like that, DLC mounts or anything. I hope they don't get those crazy ideas. So yeah. All right. I'll see you guys. See you guys. Adios.